did this book came about? So could you tell us a background of your story?
Well, in some ways I was living a charmed life. I had a great job with the BBC, meeting celebrities and politicians, and I felt like I had my finger on the pulse of current affairs. Then I got a transfer to work for China Radio International in Beijing, which was really an exciting assignment to get. I was a journalist advisor there. And in Beijing, I met an American guy, and we had a fairy tale falling in love. And if you fast forward 25 years later, best wedding anniversary ever. We spent it in Hawaii. I thought that we were closer than ever before. And little did I know that just 2 years later, both my marriage and my health would be in tatters, because he was carrying on an affair with a woman that was half his age, whom he refused to give up. And I was diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time. I carried that BRCA gene, similar to what Angelina Jolie has, and saw as a death sentence if she didn't deal with it. So it was a terrifying double whammy that hit me at that point. And one of the ways I got through it was I didn't want to be a victim. I wanted to keep my sense of humor because I was brought up on Monty Python, but I also did a lot of writing. And the book came out of that, the first book, Adulterers Wife, How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not. And I also am completing a second book based on my cancer and infidelity experiences called Hotel Chemo, My Wild Ride Through Breast Cancer and Infidelity. So the Adulterer's Wife book did come out of personal experience, but I interviewed a lot of women, some men too, because there are so many things that you just don't hear about. And what I hated about how people dealt with adultery and all the sites you see on the web, so much of it was vitriol. It was people blaming and getting angry and all these revenge strategies. And that just wasn't for me. I knew in my heart that the best revenge would be to get past the need for it. Whether I stayed with my husband or I moved on, revenge was just not the way I wanted to go. And that was the main theme of the book, that the best revenge is to get past the need for it, and ways to just get off that horrible emotional roller coaster that infidelity throws you into.
It was such a roller coaster indeed, with the health issue and then the infidelity. So just flashback on when you discovered the infidelity. So what narratives that popped into your mind when you found out? And of course, this will not be an overnight overcoming of the situation. So how did you go through about it?
Yeah, I mean, I found out about it initially from a text on my husband's phone. I was transferring data from one older phone to a new phone when a text came in. Oh dear. And the whole point was that my ex, who's now my ex because we've got divorced, he was not willing to give this woman up. He just was not willing. And in fact, once I found out, he actually offered me a part-time wife position, if you can imagine. And, he said to me, well, I'd be perfectly happy just spending 2 or 3 days a week with her and the rest of the week with you. And I'm perfectly capable of loving 2 women at once. And amazingly, I actually considered that proposal for a few months. And the original subtitle of my book was not Adulterer's Wife, How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not. It was Adulterer's Wife, How to Thrive If You Choose to Stay. Because there are a lot of women who do stay with people who have been unfaithful. But it's much more likely to be successful in those cases if the husband or the wife, if the wife's been unfaithful, is willing to give up the girlfriend or the philandering or whatever it is. It's a very difficult road if you stay with somebody who is going to continue philandering or continue having a relationship with somebody else. Because if that's not what you've agreed to at the beginning, if you haven't agreed to an open relationship right from the start, it's not an open relationship. It's being forced on you. It's not consensual, and it will not make you happy. But I actually thought about how to navigate around that for a few months, because, you don't want your relationship to collapse. You don't want your whole life, your home, your everything that you've believed is stable to just fall apart. So I did even think about it. But once I got the cancer, it was so glaringly obvious that a part-time husband would not do. It was just no good at all. I did not want to be treated like a doormat or anything like that. I needed to forgive him. I needed to forgive him and the girlfriend, and I needed to try and maintain a neutral relationship with both of them. But I certainly wasn't going to be able to have this part-time marriage position. That just wasn't going to work. Not at all.
Yes, exactly.
The thing is that in effect, it was going to be, well, she could provide the passion and I could get the taxes done, you know. So the first thing I did was to find confidants and mentors who had my best interests at heart. And these were people I could vent to, I could sort of process the emotions with. Some people might be paying a counselor to go through this stuff. I didn't have to do that because I had friends who were actually good at counseling, and they were giving me good advice. They had my best interests at heart. They really cared about what happened to me. And those were people I could call up and go on and on and on and on, and they would go nuts and draw away from me. These were people who were really very good friends and very good confidants. And I found it very useful having men as well as women as confidants, because you get a very different impression talking to a guy about something like infidelity than you do from a woman. And this also ties in with my second thing that I did, which was to rebuild my community of friends. I wanted to get back to connecting with my old friends and make new ones, because one big problem, and I think it's true of a lot of women, is that you lose a lot of the friends you have prior to marriage. And most of the people in my social circle when I was married were either friends of my husband's or they were connected with the joint business that we'd built up. And of course, if you're having marital problems, the last thing you're going to do if you're trying to stay professional is vent to the people you're working with. That just doesn't work. And so I couldn't really confide in any of those people. And then the third thing, which was really important too, especially with my Monty Python loving background, was laughter therapy. I needed to do things that made me laugh. I didn't want to watch any depressing dramas. I watched a lot of comedies. And, you know, even being a BBC news journalist, I gave up watching the news because it's so depressing. When you think about it, all the news is bad news. I didn't need that.
Yeah.
I needed things that brought me up, that made me laugh rather than made me feel depressed. I did not want to feel depressed. The fourth thing that I did, which is really important too, was sort of loving my body and trying to become more beautiful in myself. Not that I was going to ever become a supermodel or anything like that, but, you know, diet, exercise, sleep, making sure that those things were taken care of, because it's really easy to sort of let yourself go and really not look after yourself well when you're going through a rough patch. And one of the big things that I found made a difference to my mood was outdoor exercise. And if there's one thing I would recommend anybody going through any kind of adversity, feeling down, feeling depressed, if you can go outside in nature for 15 minutes a day, it is huge. It makes a huge difference to your mood. Nice if you can do it with a friend, but just being in nature, outside, moving your body makes a big difference as far as banishing the blues. And I found that that was a key part of feeling better despite these obstacles of cancer and infidelity. And then the fifth thing was to try to find my passion and become more of a hedonist, because I found that I had made very little time at all to do things I enjoyed. I was very much nose to the grindstone in my marriage, taking care of the business. I'd raised the kids, ministering to my husband, and I just didn't make time for anything I enjoyed. And I had to go back to think about what I love, what really made my heart sing. For me, it was writing. Writing was one of those things. And even meeting kindred spirits and all kinds of stuff. For some people, it might be playing a musical instrument. For others, it might be volunteering for a cause that they really believe in. Those kinds of things are really good. And if you are doing things you enjoy that involve other people, then you're also increasing your circle of friends and you're making your own friends again. People who hopefully are kindred spirits. So it's a really good thing to do that too. And then the final thing I did, number 6 on my list, which actually was the most difficult, was to try to become more mindful, more fully engaged in what was right there in front of my nose, because it's so easy to start churning the past. If only I had done that, if I had made a different decision, then it might have been different. And maybe this happened because of this thing that I did. And if only he hadn't done that, all of that, it's in the past, it's gone. And then you start worrying about the future. How is it going to turn out? Where am I going to live? What are we going to do? How am I going to feel? I'm going to, and that doesn't help either, because the future doesn't exist either. It's just in your imagination. All you have is the now.